Welcome everyone to the WeREndurance webinar series. Nina, thank you very, very much for being here. As you know, Nina was an Olympian, or she still is an Olympian, right? And
Kind of like being a
you know,
president. Once a president, always a president, I guess.
absolutely. Nina, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background before we start the webinar?
For sure. I started swimming when I was 9 and I was a little late to the game. But I think that kind of helped me stay in it for a little longer. I'm born and raised in Bulgaria in Europe. It's Central Eastern Europe, right above Greece and Turkey. And in 2010, I was recruited by SMU, which is a D1 private school in Dallas. It stands for Southern Methodist University, and they have, a huge um, kind of tradition with coaching international swimmers, specifically female and male actually. But coach recruited me and he was like, hey, like, do you want to come and I'll give you a full scholarship? And at the time SMU cost $55,000 a year. Now it's 75 and it's just mind-blowing. But he was like, I'll give you a full scholarship if you come swim with for me. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I have no idea where Dallas is. I don't really speak English, even less, I need to study now for all the English exams and SAT and whatnot. So I took a huge leap and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go. And all I know about Dallas is that back in the day, there was a show called Dallas and there are a bunch of people running around on horses with cowboy hats, and that's about it. So I came here in Texas in 2010 as a freshman. And then at that time, I had already participated at the Beijing Olympics when I was 17. And I started getting ready for all the NCAA meets, as well as the London Olympics, which I qualified for in 2012. And then I stuck around till the Rio Olympics. I graduated in 2015 and I received my green card, which was for extraordinary abilities, which allowed me to stay in the US. I started, how I know Hillary actually was through my previous work experience. I was part of the team at Roca. I'm sure everybody has heard about Roca.
Right.
And
Well, we're right.
yeah, everybody knows who they are. So I started working for them in 2016, right after I was done with the Olympics. And I was on the PR team. Then I started managing teams, all of the, triathlon teams that Roka has, which was close to 1,000. And, I've done events and a lot of different things for Roka. And earlier this year, I decided to start my own business. So I have my own company that I'm working with a factory directly from Bulgaria. And what we do is some custom swimwear, towels, backpacks, caps, everything that you would need in terms of swimming equipment. We have it, or gear rather. We have it, and we're working with Hillary now to get you guys some really cool looking swimsuits and towels and backpacks. So we'll talk about this later. But the reason why Hillary wanted me to jump on the call is share a little bit about my experience as a swimmer for over, 20 years, and talk a little bit about swimming and breaking down the stroke, because when you're looking into swimming, and I have a PowerPoint to share with you guys because it's a little easier when you see it, actually, when you have a bit of a visual. But um swimming is a very interesting sport because you can only do it in a completely different environment in water. And water is 830 times more dense than the air. And so, how do you use your body to compensate for that additional drag that's created by the water? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And really, to understand the stroke and how to be very efficient in the water, what do we need to do is take a step back and really break down that stroke, because you're swimming with your whole body, obviously, but what are the different parts in the stroke that you can focus on during any given point in the water that are going to help your overall stroke as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Let me see. Share screen. Okay, do you guys see the PowerPoint? Or do you see my desktop?
It's just black right now. There's nothing there.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Oh boy, at this point I should have been better at Zoom already, right? After a whole year of Zoom meetings. Okay, how about that? You see my...
Yep, that's good.
Stretch it out a little bit. Okay, there you go. Let's do that. Okay. Loading. Okay, there you go. We have it. So a little bit of an overview. Hold on, I'm gonna need to move my... Okay, there you go. So a little bit of an overview, again, what we're going to do today. In order for you to be super efficient in the water, you're going to need to start breaking down your stroke and really use your body in a very synchronized way by simply obeying some physics rules. And really what a good technique is brilliant physics. The main thing every swimmer should work on every day in the water is how to connect their body to their stroke. And we'll really dive into this and see what that means. I have a couple different videos actually of myself that I've done through the years with some technical people that are specializing in really bringing your stroke and your stroke technique to the next level. And so what I love about these is that they're completely underwater and you can see every single thing. This is the full video. I have separated into different sections and I have also reduced the speed on those. So I have slowed it down to allow you guys to see a slow-mo of the different parts. So this is, the kicking part that we're going to be talking about. Then we're going to see some, we're going to talk about breathing, hips, rotation. We're going to talk about arms and what your arm should do and all the different phases that your arm goes through during the stroke. And I'll also help you with some tricks that are going to help you elevate your swimming and some drills. If you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. We are, I'm happy to answer any questions. So let me stop this because I don't think it just keeps going. So yes, the different part. Yes.
I'm sorry. Are you going to talk a little bit? You're going to talk about the front, the stroke.
Yeah.
You just did? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
yes. And I have broken down that video in different videos that are going to talk about each specific thing. So the different parts of the stroke are, head and body position in the water. Body position is one of the most important things because if you don't have a proper body position in the water, you're going to be creating a lot of drag. Kicks or kicking is obviously what your legs are going to be doing. Hips and core, upper body, and then breathing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is head and body position. The goal is to really keep your body leveled on top of the water as much as possible. To avoid any sort of snaking or anything that is going to really remove that streamlined position, you're going to need to get your core really tight during the whole time. Streamlined position is very, very important. And the reason why it's important is because at the moment where your body starts snaking side to side, that's when you're going to lose your whole synchronized swimming, if you will, because when your body's not straight, your stroke is not going to be proper, your kicking is not going to be proper, and then your breathing is not going to be proper either. So streamlined position is really at the core of every single movement that you do in the water. Head position should be in a neutral spot, looking down to the black line of the pool, but not completely below underneath you, but a couple of like maybe a foot or so forward is where your eyesight should be facing. A little trick that you could do in the water is get a tennis ball and keep it between your chin and your neck, as that, and this is how your head position should be in the water. You can try that. I had a coach that used to make me do that all the time. And another thing, we're gonna talk about this while breathing, but you could also try to breathe with it as well. So that'll be a little bit more advanced, kind of based on the level of swimming that you're in. But give it a try. Kicking. So why is kicking important? Kicking keeps your entire body balanced in the water. And the way to achieve efficiency is by using your entire leg to kick. So I'll show you a little video. So ignore the underwater part, but this is how you should be kicking in the water. So your entire kick starts from the hip and it goes through your knee and all the way to your ankles. You gotta keep your toes loose and your ankles very, very flexible, because if your ankles are, I'm gonna play it again. If your ankles are super tight, you're not gonna be able to think about a fish, and the fin of a fish. It's super flexible, it's super mobile. And so every time you're kicking, that movement helps is moving you further along faster. Do not kick only from the knee down. This is a major mistake that a lot of swimmers are doing, kicking only from the knee down. The knee should be bent at less than 90 degrees, or I guess more than 90 degrees. Do not bend your knee too much when you're kicking. Use your entire hip. Like, you almost should feel like your hip, when you're kicking too hard, your entire leg should be burning. That just means that you're using all of your leg muscles. Couple of things that you can do to improve your kick. Obviously, kicking with a board is great. It's going to help you focus on your kick. One thing that I do recommend is putting your head in the water. I know keeping your head above the water is super fun because you can chit chat with the buddy next lane, or you can just look around and check things out. But what breathing underwater is going to help you is not only work on your breathing, that we're going to talk a little bit later, but it's also going to help you put your body in that streamlined position to really get a sense of where your legs are in the water, and your hips as well. Vertical kicking is another great way of improving your kick. So what you do is you stand vertically in the water. Vertical kicking is what you hear it is. You stand vertically in the water. And based on your level of swimming and the level of challenges that you want to do that particular day, what you can do is you can start keeping your arms above the water, so you can keep only the wrists. You can keep your elbows above the water, or if you feel extra cool that day, you can keep your entire upper body and your shoulders above the water, just like this, and try to see how long you're gonna make it for. Start gradually with 10 seconds. Don't jump in right away from like 0 to 100 type of a thing. Start with small kicks. Maybe you do 10 seconds with no arms above the water, then you do 10 seconds with your wrists above the water, then you do another 10 seconds with your elbows above the water, and then maybe you go all the way up to having your shoulders above the water. Another great drill is kicking without a board. So what that's going to allow you to do is similar to what I was saying with keeping your face in the water while kicking with a board. But what that's going to do is allow you to not rely on that extra flotation that the kickboard is going to give you. You can kick on your side, which is great way to work on your rotation as well, and your core and your hips. And also kicking on your back is good, even though you're not really going to be swimming much on your back during the triathlon. It's what that's going to do is really help you um, keep those ankles flexible and really help you think about having your toes in a very loose position. So that really is the gist of kicking. Does anybody have questions about the kicking portion of the swimming stroke? No? Okay. That either means that I explained everything perfectly or nobody understood anything at all.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Okay, so you don't keep your toes pointed. You have to keep them flexed.
No, you don't keep your oh my gosh, toes pointed. Because, well, you also don't keep them flexed. So you keep them what it is. So think about, think about swimming with fins, right? When you're swimming with fins, you're fast, but the fins are not tight. Fins are flexible and they're bendable. And so use that as an association when you're thinking about your feet. So I'm gonna start the video, try to pause it at the right time again. So so you almost feel like the toes here are pointed, but they're not, because what they are is that they're loose and the pressure of the water makes them in a pointed position.
Okay.
So the entire idea is that you don't flex your toes. You don't put any pressure on your toes in either flexing or pointing position. Now, if you have to choose between, if you need to choose the feeling between being your feet being flexed or pointed, 100% go with pointed. And then once you get that feeling right in the water, start to try to relax your toes and your ankles.
Okay.
And so that's another thing. Like, you cannot try to have your toes pointed and your ankles flexible. It's really hard. It's really hard to do that. And so because of that, you need to think about having your ankle super flexible as well. So if your ankles are flexible, your toes are more likely going to be flexible as well.
Okay. One more. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about practicing kick or practice with the lava pants?
Oh, the buoyancy shorts?
Yes.
Yeah, no, buoyancy shorts are great. Buoyancy shorts help put your hips in a really good position on top of the water. They're great to use during just easy swimming because it's easier for you to recover. You're not going to be using as much energy as if you're not using them. They're also great for you to use during a fast practice when you're going to need to emphasize on speed. Now, one tricky thing about buoyancy shorts is that you probably don't want to get used to them too much. It's kind of like fins, right? So make sure that there is a good balance of swimming with them and swimming without them, because you want to be able to have that difference, because at the end of the day, not all of the swims that you're going to do as a triathlete are going to be wetsuit legal. So you want your body to know that feeling in the water of what it feels like swimming without them. And the goal then is to really try to mimic that feeling and that body position that the shorts give you, when you don't have them.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. I have a question. When
Sure.
when you're swimming long distance, should you
Mhm.
reduce the frequency of your kicking?
Yes, for sure. So kicking, and one thing I should have mentioned, is the thing that uses the most energy when you're swimming. And the reason why this is because your legs are so far from your heart. So it takes more time and it takes more effort for your heart to push blood all the way to your legs. So the harder you kick, the more energy you're using. During a long swim, yes, this kick over here, it's probably not something you want to be doing on a full Ironman because your chances are you're not going to last that long. You're going to need to like use the kick barely, just so you can only use it to balance your entire stroke in your body. Because if you're not kicking at all, your body, your legs are going to start sinking, and what happens is your body is just going to create a lot of drag. So use your kicks to the point where it maintains that proper body position in the water. Definitely do not overuse it, but try to get the best balance that you could possibly get between having a proper streamlined body position in the water from using your kick, and also being able to move forward without using your kick too much to use energy. Now at the end of your race, if you want to speed it up, go for it. But I know triathletes usually try to keep their body or their legs rather loose and recover during the swim so they can use them on the run and the bike. So yeah, definitely do not overdo it with the kick, but you have to have, some kicks in there, maybe like every other stroke or so to help you with, that balance in the water.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions about the kicking? Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is the hips and the core. So again, the hips are part of the swimming, of the kicking rather, as well, but what they're also part of is the proper rotation in the water. What that does when you're rotating in the water, there is my coach always used to tell me there is an axis that goes through your head and your torso, and there are two of those in your entire body. One goes through your head and your torso, and the other goes through your core, like horizontally. And so a human body can only rotate two ways. You can rotate around the axis that goes through your head, your torso, or you can bend up and down around the axis that goes horizontally through your hips and your core rather. So what that does is really help you think while you're swimming, because you don't want to, and we're going to talk about this axis when we're talking about arms too, but in terms of rotation, you're going to need to use this axis to rotate in a streamlined position. So when you're rotating, you have to still keep your body tight in a proper body position. And so the rotation should be about 45 degrees. So do not turn all the way to your side, that will be 90 degrees. Barely turn just enough to be able to reach with your arms far, and also enough for you to rotate your head and breathe. And we're going to talk about both of these points a little bit later, but just understanding the reason why you need to rotate in the water, you're going to be more efficient and you're going to have a higher length of reach during your stroke. So instead of doing it's funny, I'm going to use an example from my high school years, but there was always this girl that I would compete with, and she had the shortest strokes ever, and it was just the way of her swimming. She was still good, but what she was doing is I would do one stroke, she would have to do a stroke and a half to move in that distance, and keep up with me. So how do you have the longest length of stroke and move, really fast through the water in an efficient way? If you're having think about it as if you're walking, right? What steps do you do? If you do like super long steps, like it's going to be really hard for you to walk. If you do really tiny bitty steps, that's not going to be efficient at all either. So what is that balance of normal steps that you're going to be doing in order for you to be efficient? So it's the same in swimming. You don't want to be making like super long strokes because it just takes a really long time. Now, if you're swimming slow and you're recovering, 100% go for it. But when you're racing open water, you want to have just the right amount of stroke length. So another thing that the hips and the core do is allowing you to engage those larger muscles in your body. So the larger the muscle is, the less energy you're going to use. So for those of you that have done Pilates, you know, that works on the little bitty muscles in your body. And this is why they burn off so fast. You know, in like a 30-45 second exercise, you're going to get super fatigued because of that little muscle that you're working on. But if you engage your larger muscles, for example, when you're doing squats, you know, you can probably be doing squats for, you know, 10 minutes if you wanted to. But when you're doing those little tiny muscles, you can only do so much. So engaging your larger muscles is super important in swimming. And I'll again talk about this in some of the other parts of the stroke. Any questions about the rotation in specific?
Hang on. I'm not sure if you're going to talk about. I found the more I tried to put in a better rotation, the slower my stroke was. I mean, it slowed it way down. Is that just something you have to keep working at?
So it really depends again on the rotation. If you're rotating too much, it will definitely slow down your stroke. But just because your stroke has slowed down, also you need to think about does it mean you're actually slower? Because you can have your stroke rate might be slow, but you might be just as fast, if that makes sense, because you're going to be more efficient in the water, reaching further with your arm, pushing more water with your arm, and you're going to move, you know, at the same amount of time if you are not you know, rotating. But what rotation also is going to give you is efficiency and like saving your energy essentially. So think about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, upper body, arms and shoulders. So that's, you know, probably the most important and most complex thing in swimming is how to move your arm in an efficient and in a manner that is going to help you move through the water fast. So essentially what your arm does is a 360 circle, you know, give it or take. That's what it is. It's a complete circle with your arm. Now, the different parts of the stroke are going to help you do a different thing in the water as well. And so there are 4 different phases of the arm movement. There's an entry phase, a catch phase, a pull phase, and then there is a recovery phase. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those phases. So the entry phase is when your fingers are going to be entering the water. So this is exactly what this is. Your fingers, okay, this shouldn't have stopped. Your fingers are entering the water and they're moving down on your body. When your fingers start moving down your body, this is your catch phase. A trick about your fingers that you should keep in mind is try to hold your fingers not too tight or not too open. So again, the same idea that it is with your toes when you're kicking, you are going to need to apply it during your arms with your fingers rather. So think about my husband who actually is also an Olympic swimmer, and we met at SMU when we were swimming there, his coach would always tell him, and that's one thing that he mentioned when I was sharing this presentation with him, is think of it as holding a raw egg, right? You don't want to hold it too tight because you're going to break it, but you also don't want to hold it, too loose, because then you're going to drop it. So what is that really middle balance move that you can use with your arms? So when you're entering the water, do not hold your fingers tight. Keep them semi open and loose, but tight enough, obviously, in your wrist, because then you're gonna need to use that to pull water. I'm gonna try to move you guys on the top of my screen, so I can play the video again. So let me go back a little bit. Oh, okay. So this is when your fingers are entering the water. As soon as your fingers enter the water, they start pointing to the bottom of the pool. This is how your fingers are going to point to the bottom of the pool, and that black line. Think about that axis that we talked about, the rotation. Your it's probably not a good angle because the camera is a little bit to the left, but your fingers should be almost to that axis, not too far out, not too far in. Definitely do not cross that axis in the middle of your body when you're catching the water. Do not keep it too far out either, because this is not gonna help you with your efficiency. The goal here is to catch water with your forearm, and that goes back to using the larger muscles in your body. Once you're catching water with your forearm, that engages your back muscles. Again, talking about using the bigger muscles in your body. Use your back muscles to get the efficiency and the energy they have and transfer it through your arm. So this is, goes back to connecting your body to your stroke. And then once your arm starts getting out of the water, then you have the pull phase right after the catch. And so this would go, this is a different angle. I want to see. So this is your pull phase. When your fingers are pointing to the bottom of the pool, your elbow should be at 90 to 120 degrees in the water. Do not overbend this, because then you're just going to cross that axis that we just talked about. Keep your arm right underneath your body. Do not pull it outside of your body, because then you're not going to be that efficient. So this is the pull phase, super important. Keep your wrist tight, and when you're exiting the water, make sure that you're not exiting from from your core. So your elbow, although is the first thing to exit the water, make sure, what my coach always used to say is, he called it a key in Bulgarian. I don't know if that would really make sense in English, but try to splash water with your hand. Try to splash as much water out as possible. This could be a good drill for you guys to work on when you're exiting the water. So try to splash as much water with this arm right here that's about to enter the recovery phase. And so what the recovery phase is, you can see it on the picture over here, is what do you hear it is? It's when your arm recovers because you're not using those muscles anymore. What you need to do, though, is engage your shoulder. And your shoulder should be the one holding your arm. Do not let your elbow hold your arm. Use the shoulder. So again, going back to those larger muscles, have your body use to recover that arm while the other one is already working underwater. Now, another thing that I want to mention, and it's not necessarily a phase of the stroke, but make sure your arm is fully extended in the water. Like right here, if you can see, this arm has to be completely extended. And then once you are here, there, am I gonna breathe? So when you're breathing, your arm extends even more because your body rotates. So going back to rotation, when you're trying to reach something, for example, on the top shelf, you might need to rotate your body in order to get a full extent of your arm and reach that object, right? So think about that during swimming. Try to reach as far as possible during the stroke. And
I
then
have a question.
yes.
So when you're coming in, when you're coming in with your fingers and you're reaching, right?
Yeah.
I feel it in my back, right? I feel it like right in my lats, right?
Yep.
But when I'm pulling, I'm feeling it in my shoulder.
So think where your arm is when you're pulling. Is your arm right underneath your body? Is your arm here? Is your arm here? Or is your arm here? Right?
Well, that's another question, right? So what entry, like how close to your body is it,
So
like
think
this?
about the axis that goes in the middle of your head through your torso. So do not cross this.
Right.
This will be crossing the axis. This will be too far out. So if you're doing this, like now, if you do this even like outside of the water, like right here, you can feel probably a lot of shoulder tension, right? But try to put your arm here, right underneath your body. And then this is how, yeah. So this,
Yeah. Oh, I feel the difference there. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah, you're welcome. So again, this is why we're talking about this axis, because not only helps you with rotation, but it also helps you determine how far in or how far out your arm should be during the stroke. So it's probably hard to tell in those videos, but the arm should be directly under your body.
I have another question.
Yes.
I hate to take up all,
Oh,
but okay. So now you're in your, at what point do you switch arms? I mean, is it like, let me try to rephrase this a little bit. So you're entering the water,
Mhm.
and then you're going into your catch,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And then once you're in your catch,
Yes.
how
So
quick is
So
it?
as soon as so
Or you-
arms should be almost opposite, right? Obviously, because your arm above the water is going to move faster than the arm that's underneath the water. You got to be careful. You don't want to like overstep your arms, because then you're missing out on, speed essentially. So what you want to do is once this arm goes out, the other one goes in. And then once this arm goes out, I mean, you're also going to need to turn and breathe. So as soon as we're going to talk about this during the breathing, but as soon as you see your arm with your eyes, you have to start moving your head back down so your arm can move, because how are you going to, you won't be able to do it. Essentially, if your head is still to the side, you have to make sure that it's looking back down in order for your arm to go next to your head. It's almost like your arm is pushing your head back down. So when that happens, your other arm is already in the exit phase, or there isn't an exit phase, but in the pull phase, about to get into the recovery phase.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions about the upper body, arms, shoulders, stroke? I know that was a lot. And it could be hard when you're not in the water to think about it or feel it. So any questions on that? Okay. The next thing we're gonna talk about, and the last thing actually, is breathing. So when and how you should be breathing. You need to start your breathing as your arm exits the water. So as soon as your arm exits the water, you already need to be turning your head to the side and breathing. So by the time your arm goes almost to the eye side, you have taken that breath, and your arm is again pushing that head back down, looking to the bottom of the pool. You always have to keep one goggle in the water when you're swimming. What that's going to help you do is not waste too much time in rotating your head, because then your arm is going to slow down as well. And so again, talking about this, your body being connected through the entire time. If one of those elements slows down, or if one of those elements is not performing at the proper way, like other elements are going to get messed up as well. So when you're breathing, I added a picture here. See how his goggle is in the water? Like this is what you should try to achieve. And I know sometimes in open water could be hard because of the waves, but what your head is going to do is your head is going to block a lot of that water that's coming from in front of you. And so you're going to be able to breathe. Yes, granted, you're going to need to, you're not going to have a perfect breathing while you're, in open water at every single stroke, but try to achieve this as much as possible, because it's going to help with the efficiency. Another thing that I want to touch base on is exhaling in the water. This is one thing that through, my swimming career and through coaching, a lot of people are not exhaling in the water. They are holding their breath. And then some people, when they turn their head to the side, then they exhale, and then they need to take a breath. So like, think how inefficient this is. So what not exhaling in the water is going to do is is going to help you. It's not going to help you be efficient when you turn your head to breathe, because you need to exhale and then breathe. And B, it's going to help build a lot of like carbon dioxide in your body. And so with that, this is what you're going to feel like you're getting tired. But what you're getting really is the CO in your body, because you haven't exhaled properly. And when you're exhaling in the water, make it gradual. So do not just like hold your breath, then exhale it all at once, because that is not good for your lungs. It builds up your CO2. Make sure that you exhale gradually and completely. So when you turn your head to the side, you're only using that time to take a breath versus exhale whatever you have left in your lungs and then breathe. Never stop breathing. So you're either inhaling or exhaling. Do not hold your breath. Breathe through your mouth versus your nose. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of water in your nose. When you're exhaling, breathe through your nose and your mouth, if you can do both. I always recommend both. When you're exhaling through your nose, that doesn't allow water getting in your nose when your head is in the water. When you're breathing, as soon as your arm leaves the water, you need to start rotating. And we already talked about this. One trick that you can do that I've loved throughout the years is breathe every 3 strokes. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to breathe once to the right, once to the left, because in open water, you really need to be able to breathe on both sides to really see not only buoys, but also like other people in the water. So that's going to help you really focus on not having a favorable side when you're breathing, and it's not going to feel awkward during a race when you need to breathe to the left or the right if that's not your preferred side of breathing. So when you're training, try to breathe both the right and the left. Or actually, one thing that my coach used to make us do is always, when you're swimming down the pool, look to the windows. When you're swimming back, still look to the windows. So on the way there, you're going to be working on your right breathing. On the way back, you're going to be working on your left side breathing. So that's another thing that you could do if you don't want to do every 3 strokes, because after, few 100 yards, it could get tiring. And again, that goes back to building the CO2 in your body. Another great exercise breathing is keep one arm on your kickboard, and then with the other one breathe. So what that's going to allow you to do is, again, break down your stroke, and it's going to help you focus only on one part of your stroke at a time. It's way less to think about before you really nail it down. And you can also do this without a board too. So keep one arm next to your body if you don't have a board, and swim with one arm. That's also going to help with rotation, which is one benefit of swimming this way without a board. And it's also going to help you think about having your arm right underneath your body, being able to rotate on 45 degrees, and focus on that breathing on either the right or the left. I think that covers everything on the breathing and the stroke. Does anybody have any questions about any of it?
I had one question. I noticed that when on your stroke, you seem to have your arm fully extended when it enters the water.
Yeah.
Is there an optimal angle of entry? Should you extend before you enter the water or extend after you enter the water?
You should not extend after you enter the water. Whatever angle your arm enters the water, this is the angle you should move forward. Because when you're thinking, if you enter, let's say your arm enters, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but if your arm enters like this, then you're going to waste time essentially extending that and then going down. So this is why your arm should enter the water at almost a complete extension. So then you don't go out again with it and then down. So you start going down right away. And if you're breathing, it's also going to help you maintain that axis rotation properly, because if your arm is here, because essentially if you get your arm bent in the water, chances are it's going to cross that axis. When you cross that axis, rotation then gets way harder. So think about entering the water, and I'm going to try to go back on some of those videos. So entering the water. So see, my arm is, it's kind of hard to see, but my arm is straight pretty much. And then with that, I'm not wasting time to start my pull phase. So arm is almost straight. You can see a bit of an angle here. And then you just go straight down to your catch and pull phase. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Yeah, but I've tried, I mean, it's harder to reach way out before you enter, and also rotate and not have your arm do this instead of this. I mean, I've actually worked on that. It's hard.
It is hard, but guess what? Once you get it nailed down, you're going to be so much more efficient and so much faster in the water. And this is
Okay.
what's so tricky about swimming is it's like it takes a lot of practice. You know, it's that swimming is a sport where you know, swimmers have to swim year round. You know, it's the worst thing about swimming is you have to swim year round. If you take as a professional swimmer, I know in triathlon it is different, but if you take 4 days off from swimming, you're like going backwards so much in terms of preparation because you're performing something in a completely different environment. You're performing something that you cannot mimic outside of the pool, unless you have some, you know, cords at home that you can pull and try to mimic those movements with your arms and your body. You know, chances are your muscle memory is going to be lost after a week of not swimming. And so this is why a lot of people, it takes a while for people to get better in swimming because it's just very time consuming and it just takes time and it takes a lot of practice. You know, it's not, think about running, you know, the muscles that you're using running and walking are not necessarily the same, but they're pretty darn close. And so you cannot, what are the muscles that you're using in your everyday life that are going to help engage your lats and your core that's going to help you rotate? You know, there aren't that many natural movements that one uses every day. So this is why it's hard. I'm sorry.
I have a question.
I wish I had an answer that's going to make you better overnight, but it just takes work.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question. I mean, you're basically talking about freestyle on all of these.
Yes.
If you're doing the breaststroke, for example, what variations or what other, you know, advice could you give to like a beginner, especially the breathing aspect? Because what I'm finding, you know, I'm just starting, I swam more this last week in a pool than I have in my whole life. And I'm still here. I'm still alive as of today. But I'm, you know, I get tired and, you know, maybe in the middle of a lap and I'll just go to the breaststroke. So what advice do you have as far as breathing in particular goes with the breaststroke?
So on the breaststroke, as soon as your arms start separating to the side,
Correct.
You need to start getting your head out to start breathing. So by the time your arms are in this position, essentially where you're finishing up your stroke, your head almost should just go in between that, and you are going to finish up the stroke with your head down. So you're breathing while your arms
but still with your mouth essentially, and you obviously have to have your whole head, your chin almost up to the water, right?
You're going to need to even have your shoulders above the water.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And that comes with the power that you're pushing with your arms. So your arms are going to get your, you know, head above the water, and the strength and the power of your push is going to determine how far of your body gets out of the water. If you watch some breaststroke videos on YouTube, you're going to see some breaststrokers like come up until, I mean, almost the entire chest, even sometimes, but they're not necessarily in a straight up position like this. You know, they're going to be forward to really use the water to glide through their body. Because
and you should breathe like every stroke then, right?
Yes. Yeah, breaststroke breathes every stroke. Again, the same thing. You breathe in through your mouth, you exhale through your nose and your mouth when your head is in the water.
And any advice on kicking that's different than a freestyle?
So remember when I said keep your toes
loose,
flexible and loose and all that?
Same.
Like, no, ignore that. On the breaststroke, you have to have, so your toes are relaxed and loose as your legs come in, but then as you're pushing out, you have to flex those toes as much as possible, because the bottom of your foot is what really pushes the water. And so if your legs are like this, you're not going to be able to push.
Okay.
This is why you're not swimming breaststroke with fins, unless they're breaststroke fins that are different. So keep your toes flexed as you're pushing back. Do not flex them before you push back. Relax and then push with your toes
Okay.
flexed.
Thank you.
But for a beginner, and there's a couple of beginners on this call,
Mhm.
what would you just recommend that they do freestyle just to get that? I mean, because
Yes.
you really need to do
Freestyle
that in-
backstroke is also great, by the way, because on the backstroke, you don't have that breathing problem. You can breathe whenever the heck you want. But in the freestyle, you have one additional thing to think about, which is the breathing. Now, granted, professional swimmers do have a way of breathing through the backstroke that's specific to that stroke. But as triathletes, and if you're, not at that level, you don't have to worry about, when you're breathing, you can breathe whatever you want. And yeah, backstroke is great because of that breathing thing. Do some fly too. Why not? It helps a lot with your arm muscles.
Moi?
Fly, butterfly.
Right. I drowned halfway across the pool.
I know, right? That's how I
You
feel.
gotta start somewhere, right?
Get the kick. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was fantastic. Thank you, Nina. Does
Wonderful.
anybody else have any questions before we wrap this up? Well, thank you very much. I mean,
You're very
there's
welcome. I hope that was helpful. And please
much-
do let me know if you have any other questions. And if you feel like this has helped you make any progress, please do let me know as well. I would love to hear, anything that, you guys are working on. I'll have Hillary share my email. And then Hillary, we're working on that shop. It should be available later today. So we'll keep you guys in the loop. I can, let me see if I can pull up the designs real quick. Ooh, where are they?
I
thought
gotta drop and go to a 1 o'clock meeting, but thanks very much. This was very helpful.
You're very welcome. So Hillary, you've seen those, but these are the designs that you guys see this?
Yeah.
no, I haven't shared it yet with anybody.
Oh, oops,
fun.
surprise. So here's some of the, designs we're working on right now that are going to be available. There's also a towel that I guess it's not on here, but we'll keep you guys posted on all of that as well. And
Cool.
and all that fun stuff. But yes, my email is nina@delfinaathletics.com. I'll have Hillary share that as well. And if you have any follow-up questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
very welcome.
Bye.
Okay, bye guys. Have a good day. And
You
rest of the week.
Ew.
Bye.